Have you ever walked into a room full of smiling faces while carrying a heart that felt completely broken? Sometimes, the people who seem strongest are quietly fighting the hardest battles. This is the story of one single father who believed he was attending a wedding alone. He had no idea that before the night was over, one unexpected voice would change everything. When a successful woman stood up and shouted, "Look at me!" every guest froze, and one little family discovered that kindness can rewrite a future. Before we begin, welcome to Stories of Kindness. If you enjoy heartfelt stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what kindness means to you. Your support helps us share more inspiring stories with people around the world. Daniel Parker was only 36 years old, but life had already tested him more than most people twice his age. 3 years earlier, he had lost his wife, Emily, after a sudden illness. Since then, every morning started before sunrise as he prepared breakfast, packed lunches, helped his 8-year-old daughter Lily get ready for school, and rushed to his construction job. Money was always tight, but Daniel never let Lily see how worried he felt. He smiled through the stress, read bedtime stories every night, and promised her that everything would be okay. Their apartment building was quiet, except for one neighbor who lived across the hallway. Her name was Victoria Grant. Everyone knew Victoria as the CEO of a fast-growing technology company downtown. Expensive cars often picked her up before sunrise. She wore elegant business suits and spoke confidently during phone calls that echoed through the hallway. To Daniel, she seemed like someone living in a completely different world. Still, every now and then, Victoria would notice Lily struggling with grocery bags and quietly carry them upstairs. During winter, she secretly shoveled snow away from Daniel's parking space before he woke up. She never stayed long enough to receive thanks. Daniel assumed she was simply being polite. Weeks later, Daniel received an invitation to his cousin Michael's wedding. At first, he almost threw it away. Every wedding reminded him of Emily. The music, the dancing, the wedding vows, they all brought back memories that still hurt. Lily gently placed the invitation back on the table. "Daddy," she whispered, "Mom would want you to smile again." Those simple words stayed with him. On the wedding day, Daniel put on the same navy blue suit he had worn years before. It was slightly outdated, but carefully pressed. Lily wore a light blue dress borrowed from her best friend. As they prepared to leave, Victoria happened to step into the hallway. "You both look wonderful," she said warmly. Daniel smiled politely. "Thank you." Victoria looked like she wanted to say something else but stopped herself. Instead, she simply wished them a wonderful evening. The wedding took place at a beautiful countryside venue outside the city. String lights hung from old oak trees. Soft music floated through the evening air. Families laughed together while photographers captured happy moments. Daniel tried to enjoy himself, but he couldn't ignore the empty chair beside him. Every couple around him reminded him of what he had lost. Lily noticed. She quietly reached over and held his hand. "You don't have to be sad forever," she whispered. Before Daniel could answer, the wedding host invited everyone to stand and celebrate the newly married couple. Applause filled the room. Then came the traditional dance. One by one, couples walked onto the dance floor. Daniel stayed seated. He didn't belong there anymore, or so he believed. Just then, the large entrance doors suddenly opened. Everyone turned. Standing there was Victoria. She wasn't dressed in one of her business suits. She wore a beautiful emerald green evening gown that shimmered beneath the lights. People whispered in surprise. Daniel blinked. What is she doing here? Victoria walked confidently across the room. She ignored every curious face until she reached Daniel's table. He looked completely confused. Before he could stand, Victoria smiled. Then, in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear, she called out, "Daniel Parker, look at me." The entire room became silent. Daniel slowly looked into her eyes. She smiled through nervous tears. "I've been hoping you'd finally see me." Guests exchanged puzzled glances. Victoria took a deep breath. "For 3 years I've watched you wake up before sunrise to care for Lily. I've watched you help elderly neighbors carry groceries. I've seen you repair bicycles for neighborhood kids without accepting a single dollar. I've seen you give your last umbrella to strangers standing in the rain. You probably don't remember these moments. But I do. Daniel stood speechless. Victoria continued, everyone knows me as a CEO. But very few people really know me. I built a successful company. I have awards. I have money. But every evening I came home to an empty apartment. Then I met the little family across the hallway. She looked at Lily. You reminded me that love isn't measured by wealth. It's measured by everyday kindness. Some guests quietly wiped away tears. Victoria smiled gently. I wasn't invited tonight because of business. I'm here because Michael is one of my company's legal advisors. When I saw Daniel's name on the guest list, I realized this might finally be the moment to tell him the truth. Daniel's heart raced. Victoria stepped closer. I don't need someone to rescue me. I don't need someone rich. I don't need someone perfect. I simply hope the kindest man I've ever met would finally notice that someone has been quietly cheering for him. The room stayed completely silent. Daniel looked down, overwhelmed. I thought, he whispered. I thought nobody even noticed. Victoria shook her head. The world notices kindness. Sometimes it just takes longer than we expect. Lily suddenly smiled from ear to ear. She gently pushed her father forward. Daddy, I think Mom sent her. Daniel laughed through tears for the first time in years. The guests applauded softly. Someone started the music again. Victoria held out her hand. Would you dance with me? Daniel hesitated only for a second. Then he accepted. As they stepped onto the dance floor, something inside him finally began to heal. The dance wasn't perfect. They accidentally stepped on each other's feet. They laughed. Lily laughed even harder. For the first time since Emily passed away, Daniel wasn't dancing because life had forced him to move on. He was dancing because hope had quietly returned. Months passed. Daniel and Victoria became close friends before anything else. Victoria spent afternoons helping Lily with science projects. Daniel fixed things around her apartment whenever something broke. Neither of them rushed their relationship. They simply chose kindness every single day. One evening, Victoria invited Daniel and Lily to visit her office. Employees expected a formal business meeting. Instead, they watched their CEO proudly introduce Daniel as the man who taught me that success means nothing if kindness isn't part of it. The room erupted with applause. Inspired by Daniel's example, Victoria started a company program allowing employees paid volunteer hours every month. Soon hundreds of workers were serving meals, building playgrounds, mentoring children, and helping local families. One quiet act of kindness had spread farther than anyone imagined. Years later, Lily gave a speech at her high school graduation. She smiled at Daniel and Victoria sitting together in the front row. My dad taught me that strong people are kind. My bonus mom taught me that successful people stay humble. And together they taught me that love sometimes arrives softly, living right across the hallway. The audience stood and applauded. Daniel reached for Victoria's hand. She squeezed it gently. Neither of them had expected their lives to change because of one wedding invitation. But kindness has a remarkable way of opening doors that fear keeps closed. If you ever feel invisible, remember Daniel. Someone may already see your quiet goodness, even if they've never found the courage to tell you. If you ever wonder whether your small acts of kindness matter, remember Victoria. One generous heart inspired an entire company to help thousands of people. And if life has left you feeling alone, don't lose hope. Sometimes the person who believes in you has been closer than you ever realized, simply waiting for the right moment to say, "Look at me." Thank you for spending this time with Stories of Kindness. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who could use a little hope today. Never underestimate a smile, a helping hand, or a few kind words. They may seem small, but they have the power to change a life, and sometimes, even create a brand new beginning.